Have you ever noticed that the more kind and accommodating you are, the more some people begin to take advantage of you? Instead of appreciating your kindness, they start to see it as weakness. This is a painful reality many face. Kindness turning into disrekindness is one of the most beautiful gifts a person can bring into any environment. It is a language that every human being understands regardless of culture, race, or background. Yet the tragedy is that kindness is often misinterpreted, not because kindness has lost its power, but because people fail to discern the strength behind it. When someone chooses to be kind, they are not doing so because they lack options or because they are powerless to act otherwise. They are extending kindness as an intentional act of strength, as a demonstration of character that values peace over conflict and gentleness over harshness. But in many circles of life, this kindness is quickly misunderstood as weakness. People see someone who refuses to retaliate and assume that person is incapable of retaliation. They observe someone who chooses patience over argument and imagine that person is too timid to speak up. They watch someone who willingly helps others and assume that person has no backbone. This is one of the most dangerous misinterpretations because it causes people to mishandle what was intended to be a gift. Kindness is not passivity. It is strength under control. The strongest people in the world are not those who can dominate others with power, but those who can dominate themselves in the face of provocation. To choose kindness when you have every reason to be unkind requires self-mastery. It requires maturity. It requires understanding that every reaction you give is shaping how others perceive you and how you influence them. But the reality is that many individuals, when they encounter this kind of self-control, do not recognize it as strength. They see only the surface. They think silence is weakness, patience is cowardice, and generosity is naivety. And because they cannot discern the deeper reality, they begin to take advantage of what they believe is an easy target. This misinterpretation often leads to patterns of disrespect. Someone may start ignoring your contributions because they assume you will always give more. They may push against your patience because they expect you will never confront them. They may continuously cross your boundaries, assuming your kindness will always excuse their behavior. And if you are not careful, their misunderstanding of your kindness can shift how you view yourself. You may start doubting whether kindness is worth it because of the way others respond. You may begin questioning whether you should harden your heart because of the disrespect you face. But the truth is, kindness is never the problem. The real issue is not the virtue of kindness, but the perception of it. To understand why kindness is misinterpreted, you must look at the way people are conditioned. Many individuals equate strength with aggression. They believe that the louder you are, the stronger you must be. They measure authority by domination, not by influence. So when they encounter a person who refuses to play by those rules, they assume that person lacks the capacity to be strong. It never occurs to them that restraint is evidence of greater power than retaliation. The person who can shout but chooses not to is stronger than the one who cannot control their tongue. The person who can strike but chooses to walk away is stronger than the one who loses control in anger. The person who can demand but chooses to give freely is stronger than the one who manipulates for selfish gain. The misinterpretation of kindness also arises because kindness exposes insecurity. When a person who is insecure sees genuine kindness, it makes them uncomfortable. Instead of appreciating it, they try to exploit it, because in their mind, controlling someone kind makes them feel superior. They do not realize that their very need to exploit exposes their own weakness. A truly strong person does not need to manipulate kindness, they honor it. But the insecure often try to degrade what they do not understand. This is why kindness, though powerful, must be accompanied by wisdom. You cannot control how others perceive your kindness, but you can control how you express it. You must recognize that not everyone will appreciate your kindness, and not everyone deserves unlimited access to it. When people misunderstand kindness, it is their problem, not yours, but you must still manage your relationships with discernment. You cannot allow someone else's ignorance to redefine the value of your virtue. The misinterpretation of kindness becomes dangerous when you allow it to silence your discernment. If people continually mistake your kindness for weakness, you must not stop being kind, but you must stop giving access to those who cannot honor it. The power of kindness is not diminished by misunderstanding, but it is protected by clarity. If others choose to see your restraint as inability, let them. If they choose to treat your patience as timidity, let them. But never allow their misinterpretation to weaken your conviction. The greatest strength is often invisible because it lies in the power to choose the higher road even when the lower road looks more satisfying in the moment. Kindness is misunderstood because the world measures strength by external force, while true strength is measured by internal mastery. People will always misinterpret what they cannot comprehend. That is why your responsibility is not to convince others that your kindness is strength, but to know within yourself that it is. When you operate from that understanding, their misinterpretation cannot control your identity. You will remain kind, not because people deserve it, but because kindness reflects who you are at your core. Kindness is one of the most powerful forces in human relationships, but it is also one of the most vulnerable when it is not protected by boundaries. Many people make the mistake of believing that to be kind means to be endlessly available, to say yes to every request, and to stretch themselves beyond healthy limits. Yet true kindness does not erase boundaries. It reinforces them. Without boundaries, kindness can easily transform into something others exploit rather than respect. The reality is simple. People do not always value what is freely available in abundance. When kindness flows without restraint, when it is offered without wisdom, it often ceases to inspire gratitude and begins to invite entitlement. Boundaries are not barriers to kindness. They are the framework that ensures kindness is honored rather than abused. When you live with kindness, but with boundaries, people may begin to see you as someone they can use rather than someone they should value. They will call only when they need something. They will take without consideration for what it costs you to give. They will expect your yes as if it is their right and react with frustration when you finally say no. This happens not because kindness is wrong, but because kindness without limits communicates to others that you have no limits. And when people believe you have no limits, they stop treating you as a person with value and start treating you as a resource to be drained. The absence of boundaries teaches others how to disrespect you. Boundaries do not cancel kindness, they preserve it. Every healthy relationship, whether personal or professional, thrives on mutual respect. Respect cannot exist without boundaries. When you establish boundaries, you are sending a clear message about how you value yourself and how you expect others to value you. Boundaries are not selfish, they are self-respect in action. They say, I choose to give, but I do not choose to be used. I choose to serve, but I do not choose to be enslaved. I choose to help, but I will not allow myself to be diminished in the process. This distinction is what separates authentic kindness from unhealthy self-sacrifice. Kindness without boundaries is like water without a riverbank. It spreads everywhere, but it loses direction and power. Boundaries give shape and channel to your kindness, allowing it to flow where it is needed and appreciated rather than being wasted where it is only consumed. Many people fear that setting boundaries will make them appear unkind or uncaring, but in truth, the opposite is real. Without boundaries, your kindness eventually breeds resentment within you because you will begin to feel taken advantage of. You will give and give until your energy is depleted, and instead of joy in giving, you will feel bitterness at being unappreciated. Boundaries are what allow your kindness to remain pure, joyful, and sustainable. It is important to understand that people are always watching how you treat yourself. If you consistently give away your time, energy, and resources without any regard for your own well-being, others will assume that you do not value yourself. And if you do not value yourself, they will not value you either. Boundaries are the way you demonstrate to others that your kindness is a gift, not an obligation. When you say no, you are teaching others that your yes has meaning. When you protect your space, you are showing that your presence has value. Boundaries elevate the worth of your kindness because they make it clear that what you give is not to be taken for granted. Some people may resist or even become angry when you begin to set boundaries, especially if they have grown accustomed to exploiting your kindness. But their reaction does not mean you are wrong. In fact, it often confirms that the boundary is necessary. People who truly respect you will also respect your limits. They will understand that boundaries are not a rejection of them, but a protection of yourself. Boundaries separate those who are drawn to your kindness for genuine connection from those who are only interested in what they can take from you. Boundaries also allow you to discern where your kindness is most impactful. Instead of scattering your energy everywhere, you can focus on giving where it produces growth, healing, or encouragement. A farmer does not scatter seed on concrete, hoping something will grow. He plants in fertile soil because he knows that is where the seed will multiply. In the same way, kindness given within healthy boundaries becomes fruitful, while kindness poured out without boundaries often goes wasted or even resented. When you establish boundaries, you are not becoming less kind. You are becoming more effective in your kindness. You are ensuring that your compassion does not diminish you, but instead uplifts both you and the person receiving it. Boundaries empower you to continue being kind without being drained, to continue giving without losing yourself, and to continue serving without being disrespected. They safeguard your heart from bitterness and your relationships from imbalance. Boundaries teach others that your kindness is not a weakness to exploit, but a strength to honor. One of the greatest confusions people often face in practicing kindness is not recognizing the distinction between service and slavery. At first glance, both may appear similar because in both cases you are giving, you are helping, and you are making sacrifices for others. But the motive, the posture of the heart, and the result are entirely different. Service is an act of strength. It is a conscious choice to uplift, to add value, and to empower others from a place of dignity. Slavery, on the other hand, is an act of control. It is when others impose on your kindness, demanding what they have no right to demand, and reducing you to a tool for their agenda. Many people fall into the trap of confusing the two, believing that endless giving and blind compliance are marks of humility, when in reality, they are signs that their kindness is being abused. True service is rooted in love and purpose. It is an expression of generosity that comes from freedom. When you serve, you give because you choose to, not because you are coerced to. Service lifts us up without diminishing you. It flows out of abundance, not out of fear. A person who serves understands their own value, and from that value, they choose to contribute to the growth and well-being of others. That is why true service always leaves both the giver and the receiver enriched. The one who serves feels the joy of fulfilling a purpose, and the one who is served feels honored, not entitled. Slavery, however, strips away dignity. It is when kindness is no longer a choice, but an expectation imposed by others. It is when people see your willingness to help as a weakness to exploit. They stop asking and start demanding. They no longer appreciate what you offer because they have come to believe it is their right to receive it. In this scenario, you are no longer serving from strength, but being used as if your value lies only in what you can provide. Slavery is not about chains of iron, but about chains of manipulation, guilt, and control. People may never call it slavery, but when they make you feel guilty for saying no, when they pressure you to give beyond what is healthy, when they treat your kindness as an obligation, they are attempting to enslave your compassion. The danger of confusing service with slavery is that it erodes your sense of worth. When you continually serve without discernment, you may begin to feel drained, invisible, and unappreciated. You may even start to lose the joy of giving because what once came from freedom now feels like a burden. The truth is, kindness was never meant to strip you of your identity. Service was never designed to diminish you. Real service empowers others while still protecting your dignity. Slavery, on the other hand, strips both you and the other person of true growth. It breeds dependency, entitlement, and imbalance in relationships. Understanding the difference requires wisdom. You must constantly ask yourself, am I serving out of love, or am I giving because I fear rejection? Am I helping because I see purpose in it? Or am I helping because I am afraid of disappointing someone? Am I choosing to say yes, or have I lost the ability to say no? These questions reveal whether your kindness is an expression of freedom or a response to control. Service is always voluntary. Slavery is always coerced. Service adds to your life. Slavery subtracts from it. This distinction also teaches you something vital about respect. People respect service. They exploit slavery. When you serve with dignity, people admire your generosity because they can sense it is rooted in strength. But when you give endlessly without boundaries, people stop respecting you and begin to see you as someone they can take advantage of. The irony is that the more you give under compulsion, the less people appreciate it. Service inspires gratitude. Slavery invites entitlement. That is why people who serve with strength are often honored, while those who allow themselves to be enslaved by expectations are often overlooked. To maintain the difference between service and slavery, you must learn the power of intentional choice. Never allow kindness to be stripped of its freedom. When you help, let it be because you have decided to, not because someone has manipulated you into it. When you serve, let it be with joy, not with resentment. The moment you feel compelled, drained, or disrespected, you must pause and evaluate whether what you are doing is still service or whether it has crossed into slavery. Service empowers both sides, but slavery benefits only one side. In service, there is honor. In slavery, there is exploitation. In service, you retain your voice. In slavery, your voice is silenced. In service, you give from strength. In slavery, you give from depletion. This is why knowing the difference is so critical if you want to protect your kindness from being turned into a tool for someone else's manipulation. The truth is, every person is called to serve, but no one is called to be enslaved. Service builds relationships on the foundation of respect, but slavery destroys relationships by breeding resentment and dishonor. When you operate in service, you are still free. When you fall into slavery, you lose your freedom. And while freedom is what gives kindness its power, the absence of freedom drains kindness of its value. Kindness is a noble virtue, but it cannot flourish in its purest form unless it is coupled with dignity. Too often, people believe they must choose between being kind and being respected. They fear that if they assert themselves, they will appear unkind, and if they remain gentle, they will be overlooked. But the truth is that real kindness and true dignity are not opposites, they are partners. Kindness without dignity is fragile and vulnerable to abuse, while dignity without kindness can become cold and detached. To live with both is to embody a balanced strength that commands honor without losing compassion. Preserving dignity while remaining kind is not only possible, it is essential for ensuring that your kindness does not turn into an invitation for disrespect. Dignity begins with self-respect. Before anyone else can honor your kindness, you must first honor yourself. When you respect your time, your energy, and your worth, you communicate to others that your kindness is valuable. People learn how to treat you by watching how you treat yourself. If you consistently disregard your own needs in the name of kindness, others will assume that you expect to be disregarded as well. But when you demonstrate that your kindness flows from strength, not from desperation, you set a standard for how others must interact with you. Self-respect is the soil in which both dignity and kindness grow. Remaining kind while preserving dignity also requires courage. It takes courage to say no when people expect a yes. It takes courage to walk away from those who take your kindness for granted. It takes courage to stand firm when others push against your boundaries. But this courage is not unkindness, it is wisdom. It recognizes that if kindness is not protected by dignity, it becomes a doorway to exploitation. Courage ensures that your kindness remains a gift and not a weakness. One of the ways dignity protects kindness is by giving it authority. When people see that you are kind, but also principled, they learn to respect not only your compassion, but also your convictions. Your yes carries weight because your no has meaning. Your generosity is valued because it is not automatic, but intentional. Dignity transforms kindness from something that can be taken for granted into something that is honored. Without dignity, people may misuse your kindness. With dignity, they see that your kindness is a reflection of character, not a weakness. To preserve dignity while being kind, you must learn the art of balance. Balance means you can be gentle without being naive, patient without being passive, and generous without being exploited. It is not about hardening your heart, but about strengthening your resolve. Balance allows you to give freely without being emptied, to love without being manipulated, and to serve without losing your identity. When kindness and dignity are balanced, they create a harmony that inspires respect and admiration. People are drawn to you not only for what you give, but also for the strength and honor you carry. This balance also influences the way you handle conflict. There will always be moments when your kindness is tested, when someone attempts to take advantage of it or misinterpret it. In those moments, preserving dignity does not mean responding with aggression, but it also does not mean remaining silent in the face of disrespect. It means addressing the issue with firmness yet without hostility. It means standing your ground without losing your composure. It means teaching others how to treat you, not by shouting or retaliating, but by calmly and consistently upholding your value. In doing so, you show that kindness does not mean weakness and dignity does not mean harshness. Another dimension of preserving dignity while remaining kind is found in the way you steward your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your kindness. There are those who will honor it and those who will abuse it. Wisdom allows you to discern the difference. By carefully choosing where and how you extend your kindness, you ensure that it is not wasted on those who have no intention of respecting it. This selectivity does not make you less kind, it makes your kindness more meaningful. It ensures that your compassion is received by those who value it, rather than squandered by those who exploit it. Preserving dignity while being kind also requires an inner confidence. You must know who you are and where your value comes from. If you depend on others to validate your kindness, you will always be vulnerable to manipulation. But when your identity is rooted in a deeper truth, you no longer need people's approval to remain kind, nor do you fear their disrespect. Your kindness becomes an expression of your inner strength, and your dignity remains unshaken regardless of how others respond. Confidence allows you to keep giving without being diminished, because your sense of worth does not depend on external recognition. Ultimately, dignity and kindness together create influence. People may admire strength, but they are drawn to kindness. People may enjoy compassion, but they respect dignity. When both virtues are present in you, you become someone others trust, honor, and seek to emulate. Your kindness becomes a light that warms hearts, and your dignity becomes a guard that protects that light from being extinguished. It is in this combination that kindness retains its true power, not as something that is misused or disrespected, but as something that commands honor while still extending grace. Kindness is never weakness, but without wisdom and boundaries, it can be mistaken for it. We have seen how kindness is often misinterpreted by those who cannot discern the strength behind it, how boundaries are essential for ensuring respect, how the line between service and slavery must be carefully guarded, and how dignity protects the value of compassion. When kindness is rooted in self-respect, guided by clear boundaries, expressed in true service rather than compulsion, and preserved by dignity, it becomes one of the most powerful forces for influence and honor. The challenge is not whether to remain kind, but how to remain kind in a way that commands respect and prevents exploitation. True kindness is strength under control, generosity with wisdom, service with freedom, and compassion anchored in dignity. ChatGPT can make mistake expect. Today, we are going to uncover why this happens, and more importantly, how you can walk in kindness without allowing it to be mistaken for weakness.